All right. At this point, I think we are pretty much ready to kick this off. Hello, everyone. My name is Nathan Jager, and I'm the Director of Marketing here at EchoStor. Welcome to our EchoStor Virtual Assistant Storage as a Service, or STaaS for short, webinar. This webinar is being recorded, and a recording will be sent to you tomorrow, so please feel free to forward that along to your teams. We are super excited about this product. I know I've personally sat in on some sessions where this blew the folks at AWS away, so hopefully it has that same effect with you all today. So let's get this going. To start, I'd like to introduce you to our speaker for this session today, Daniel Clydesdale-Cotter, our VP of Cloud and MSP Solutions here at EchoStor. Daniel brings over 15 years of enterprise IT experience with a strong focus in cloud, automation, DevOps, and IT management. Daniel helps our customers bridge the gap between their traditional IT services and their cloud digital transformation. He is passionate about helping customers solve business problems with efficient, cost-effective, and maintainable technology solutions. So we want to keep this session interactive today, so please put any questions you may have in the Q&A, and we'll do our best to weave them into the conversation. If anything gets left out, we'll save a few minutes at the end of the session for some final Q&A. We honestly don't expect this to go the full hour, so we should give everyone some time back in their day. So without further ado, I'll pass it on over to Daniel, and he can run with it. Go ahead, Daniel.
Thank you, Nate. So today we're going to, as Nate mentioned, go over our storage as a service offering that we're bringing to the market. We will touch briefly on the cloud and managed services group, but the main focus today will be the benefits of storage as a service. And as Nate said, please put questions into the chat. We'll get to those as we get towards the end of the deck. Try and keep it interactive as much as you guys can. Happy to answer questions as we go. So over the past 18 months to 2 years, EchoStor has been really focused on building out our cloud and managed service group. The reason for that is, as all of you are aware, EchoStor has been helping customers in their data centers for the past 17 years. What we heard from our customers is that cloud is a big part of their strategy. They're either already in a cloud provider or they're looking to move to one. And so we want to help our customers migrate and get into those cloud hyperscalers as best they possibly can. So we've built a three-pillar approach here. We have a cloud professional services division. That division is focused on, really the strategic planning, engineering, migrations, optimize and operate, which is part of some of our managed services as well. We work with the major cloud providers, AWS, Azure, and Microsoft. We separate Microsoft and Azure just because we believe Microsoft 365 is its own cloud. And then finally, on the right-hand side, you can see we've brought to our customers a number of EchoStor Virtual Assistant managed services. So the one we're going to speak about today is storage as a service, but we also do have a backup as a service environment, cloud management as a service, ServiceNow remote admin, which is another area that if you have the ServiceNow environment, I really encourage you to talk to your sales reps, and then multi-factor authentication as a service as well. So like I said, we'll speak specifically about storage as a service today as we go through. Like I said, please ask questions as you go. We worked with our customers to talk about their cloud maturity model. And that's how we built this business unit. And as you can see, as we build out this slide, there are many different levels, five different levels of the cloud maturity model. This is a widely accepted model for organizations and their IT practices. We have customers that span all the way from the very early kind of legacy 0 type maturity model all the way through to 5. And what we found is that many of our customers, regardless actually of whether they are in their kind of early stages of working in the cloud, have storage requirements. And those storage requirements have not drastically changed, over the years. So there's been a lot of conversation about serverless compute, containers, PaaS services, all those types of things that the cloud provides. However, we do find that the requirement for file services continues to be a pretty huge part of the IT organization. Whether that is legacy apps or, in fact, new applications, and in some cases, end user data. If we're talking about data science and those types of things, there's a lot of applications and data analysis that's going on that really requires that file services type experience that everyone knows and loves and is used to in their on-premise data centers. So, NFS and CIFS or SMB, if you will, are still a mainstay for customers, whether they're in the data center or not. That led us to really think about what can EchoStor do to help their customers when it comes to file services. And so Storage as a Service was born. We are helping our customers really not have to manage hardware and software from a storage perspective anymore. So, you can obviously buy storage on premise. You can, in fact, buy storage in the cloud. You can run sort of more of an infrastructure as a service type model. However, all of those different models, whether they're on-premise or in the cloud, really require you to do, on-premise hardware management, thinking about capacity, thinking about network capabilities. Do you have enough space in the data center? Over COVID, we saw a lot of customers really struggling with procurement lead times. And then you have all of the kind of standard data center management issues around, hardware failure, installation, and upgrades. So we're taking care of all of that, with our Storage as a Service, as well as on top of that, which I think is a key piece here, the software side of your storage arrays. So things like firmware upgrades, the configuration of LUNs and volumes within that storage array, making sure that any new features and functionality that are released within the platform are supported within your environment. And then finally here, something that's very important to many people, of course, is the data protection and security aspect. So, locking down that storage, making sure that the storage is backed up or replicated, those are all things that we can help customers do as part of our Storage as a Service offering. So benefits of Storage as a Service here, accessing PaaS platforms in the cloud is great. We have the capability to really leverage many of these features for our customers. Auto tiering, obviously the data center management I just touched on, helping customers migrate to the cloud, remaining secure and compliant, and being able to really scale at the rate and size that you would expect for a cloud provider. We work with a lot of customers who frankly just run out of physical space, as well as potentially networking capacity and those types of things. They're all of the benefits that we see our customers taking advantage of in the cloud, just using storage services. What EchoStor really brings is, I'll work from the bottom up here. We have a very strong bench of talent when we talk about storage, especially in the NetApp area. That's where we really cut our teeth in the data center. We have over 15 years of experience there. We continue to help our customers in the data center as well as in the cloud with those technologies. Part of our service also includes onboarding, so making sure that all of your potential migration is taken care of. We also build out your entire environment. So I'm going to go into some details around what EchoStor provides. And then finally, one of the things that we've seen our customers take advantage of with our other MSP services is that flexible billing. So, the concern of having a huge cloud bill without any control or visibility into kind of what's driving the spend is something that we have felt customers have really, shied away from the cloud because of that reason. So our Storage as a Service is a predictable billing model where you can pay like a capital purchase. You can pay annually upfront or 3 years upfront like you would buying a storage array, or you can use the more OpEx-based model where you're paying monthly. So there's a lot of flexibility in the finance model, which really helps, when selling that internally to your finance teams. So with that, we'll move on to kind of the use cases that our storage as a service provides. And I'll walk through each of these. I'm going to build the slide out so you can kind of see all three of them. But first of all, we have a number of customers, obviously, that have hardware on premise. NetApp is one of our predominant providers when it comes to storage. So we built this initial launch around NetApp. So we support native NetApp replication into our storage as a service. So we're able to take customers who are looking for a second copy outside of their data center. Maybe you're closing down one of your secondary data centers and you're looking to move that into the cloud. So we can seed the data for your DR tests and any kind of business continuity requirements, as well as manage the SnapMirror environment. So to make sure that the SnapMirrors are running, making sure that you have the correct space, making sure that everything will fail over correctly from a storage perspective, all of that is built into the service. That's our first use case. The second use case here is primary file storage. So I'm going to touch more deeply on primary file storage when we get into the architecture. But really, this is for customers that maybe have workloads that are already in the cloud. Maybe they're doing data processing, application data requirements, as well as virtual desktops. There's also a number of other areas that we can help customers. Again, if you're in the NetApp portfolio here, you can use cloud caching. So we have a flex cache capability support within our primary file storage as well. But generally speaking, this is simple primary file storage in the cloud that you can have dependable costs on and don't have to manage all of the underlying infrastructure that's required to stand this up within the cloud. The third piece here is VMware on AWS. So our storage resides in AWS. Our storage as a service resides in AWS, and we'll get into the architecture in a bit. But those of you that have VMware environments and are interested in looking at potentially external storage for that VMware environment, we feel that our storage as a service is a great offering. We obviously support all of the standard features that you would expect, like deduplication, encryption, compression, and those types of things. So you can take advantage of a lot of that storage efficiency as well as availability. But also, the VMC model is for customers to buy storage as part of their compute purchases. We find a lot of our customers, frankly, outgrow the compute from a storage perspective much more quickly than they outgrow the compute. And so having a secondary storage location is very valuable to our customers because in the VMC model, you would then have to purchase more nodes to kind of up your compute. And in doing so, that basically requires you to purchase storage as well, even if you don't need it. So there's a lot of flexibility that's being built into the VMC platform. Flex compute is an option that's being released. So, having the capability to store your virtual machines outside of the vSAN environment is something that we find customers are really interested in. So with that, I'm going to move on to kind of an architecture slide that will kind of describe the service at a very high level. Really, we can talk specifically about the different integrations. If you're interested, we can kind of run through each of these potential use cases or any other use cases you might be interested in talking to us about. But generally speaking, from an onboarding perspective, I wanted to touch on this because this is one of the great value adds we find with the service. So EchoStor is helping our customers not only with their on-premise data center, but their cloud design data center. So we're helping customers by building things like landing zones in the cloud. We build each of our customers a separate account. We stand up all of the resources for that account, whether it's network, compute, and storage. We make sure it's secure and compliant and works with the AWS well-architected framework. We do all of this in an automated fashion. We use infrastructure as code on our back end to make sure that our customer environments are remaining compliant and secure, as well as creating governance for that platform. And then finally, with all of those expertise, we create and establish cloud connectivity for customers that don't already live in the cloud. So if you're kind of thinking, well, I don't have any cloud presence and I'm not really sure how I would get started, this is a great option for you, because frankly, our cloud connectivity model allows customers to connect over whichever connectivity model they would like, so VPN or Direct Connect. We can help customers really establish that and fine-tune it for their requirements. And then finally here, we manage, from a replication perspective, the SnapMirror, and we can do enablement of testing, as well as new SnapMirroring and those types of things. And also, within AWS, we can SnapMirror between regions. So we'll talk a little bit about that later. So with that, I want to get into the architecture a little bit. So this is a generalized architecture diagram. So as you can see on the left-hand side of the diagram here, we have our EchoStor storage as a service account. We support file services. S3 is coming very soon. As I've mentioned before, all storage management. So whether that's creating volumes, increasing volumes, adding volumes from a SMB and NFS perspective. If you're using VMC on AWS, we can add obviously data store targets there, replication destinations, as well as backup capabilities. So all encompassed in this storage as a service, you get all of those services. We connect to the customer accounts through a connection methodology that is called Private Link within AWS. It's a very simplified connection methodology. We create a VPC endpoint within your VPC availability zone. And we obviously have a two-way handshake that goes on. And once that connection is in place, you can obviously access your storage. This architecture is in place for customers that already have AWS, as well as customers that don't. So, from a benefits perspective, we've massively simplified the process, not only the technical deployment process, but also purchasing. We obviously make the best possible use of efficiency, making sure that, data deduplication is in place, compression, and from a security perspective, we make sure that we provide you with encryption as well. You can, of course, use this storage as a service however you see fit, whether it's, we spoke about earlier the primary file storage example, but many of our customers really do want to offload some of their disaster recovery data center costs, and a large proportion of that cost is really around storage. So having those physical pieces of hardware in the data center, power, cooling, networking, all that kind of stuff needs to be set up. This is a much more simplified model from that perspective, so that you can really start to really free up your time away from more lower level operations and start to think about more strategic value add activities within the environment. So, having more time to work on the business value projects that come IT's way, as opposed to kind of managing some of that legacy infrastructure. Finally, a really great benefit here is that hybrid cloud strategy conversation that we have all the time. I think hybrid cloud is frankly overused now in the marketplace, but from our perspective, what hybrid cloud means, especially in the storage landscape, is being able to replicate your data in that native form, or use use file services in the same form as you would in the data center, but take advantage of the cloud capabilities around efficiency, scalability, as well as reliability, without having to manage all of that on-premise. So with that, finally, I think one of the probably brightest stars here, and that's kind of also part of kind of the COVID conversation that we've had before, is we can really get this up and running for you guys in days. If you think about how long it would take for you to procure 100 terabytes of, say, storage on premise, you would have to obviously go through purchase the storage. There's probably a 6-month lead time before you would even get that on the floor. In terms of getting it used within an application, it could be even longer from a configuration perspective. So the time to value here with the storage that you purchase is days, not months. So I really think that's a great benefit for everyone.
Daniel, I had a couple of questions come in during that slide, so I'm going to rattle them off one by one here, if that works for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so first I have an AWS environment today. How do I connect to your storage as a service?
That is a great question. So as we can kind of see here, if on the right-hand side, this is your AWS environment, so you'd have a VPC. Within that VPC, you could be utilizing many availability zones within there. We would place a VPC endpoint in each of your zones, and that handshake is pretty straightforward. It requires some account information and some DNS entries, but once that's in place, then you can connect directly to your storage within our storage as a service.
Okay, awesome. Do you support multi-availability zone and multi-region?
Yes, we do. So we support multi-AZ deployments, so availability zone deployments, where you are essentially, if you think of it in kind of data center terms, it's like a metro cluster. So you will have storage devices in both availability zones, and if there was any outage in any single availability zone, you would be protected there. On top of that, we can use native replication technologies to create geo-redundancy as well. So if you were, say, in East US and you wanted to also have a storage presence in Central within AWS in Ohio, we would be able to support replication between two different regions of your storage as a service environment.
Awesome. And then we got another one. Is this managed solution using FSX for ONTAP?
Yes, absolutely. So the keen-eared among you would have realized that we are using FSX ONTAP on the back end. And from a storage as a service perspective, that really is serving up our NFS and SMB environment. S3 is more native to AWS, but for the file services piece, absolutely, we're utilizing FSX ONTAP, and we'll continue to release features and functionality within the storage as a service as that environment grows.
Awesome. All right, another one here. Is my data siloed from other customers?
Yeah, it's another great question. We get asked this a lot, and it was really part of one of the major discovery pieces that we found when talking to customers is that all of our customers, number one, they definitely want their data to be siloed, and they really can't be in a situation where they're sharing any kind of infrastructure. That is for security and risk reasons, as well as, frankly, for performance reasons, right? You don't want to be in a situation where you have a noisy neighbor that could be causing you performance issues. So all data is siloed. We actually deploy an account for every customer that we bring on, so an AWS account. So everything is completely segregated from an AWS perspective as well. And so customers would never have any issues around kind of performance or any issues with shared data.
Okay, thank you. I got, I think, two more here. First, where is my data stored?
Yeah, so as we've been kind of talking about, our initial launch of the product is AWS. So it's in the AWS cloud. In terms of where geographically, we can stand up our storage as a service in any of the geographic locations that AWS supports. So globally, we are capable of standing up storage as a service. That being said, of course, if you need to have your storage specifically held within the United States, that's not an issue. Oftentimes, we have this conversation with customers, and it comes down to application architecture. So if your application is running in, West US, you probably don't want to put your storage in East US just because of latency. So we try to make sure, from a customer perspective, we place the storage wherever the customer needs it most. And then from there, we talk about availability if you need multi-zone or geo-replication for business continuity reasons. But generally speaking, the data always resides in the region in which we specify with the company.
Okay. And then the last one I have for now, and then we can keep this thing rolling, is can you do a POC?
Absolutely. And we love to do POCs with our customers. For actually all of our managed services, we offer POCs. Essentially, we do a month-long trial or POC with customers, whether that's backup as a service, cloud management as a service. Storage as a service is no different here. We can stand up an environment for you, get it connected up to your AWS environment, or frankly, if you're on-premise and you just need to have a presence stood up for you in AWS as well, we can help you do that. So we could potentially do something like terminate a VPN within a VPC that we can stand up for you in AWS, and that way you can get the kind of look and feel and understand how you would interact with the service, and that's all free of charge, part of the POC.
Okay, awesome. Thanks, Daniel. That's all I have for now, but everybody feel free to keep hitting that Q&A. I know this slide was probably one that brought a lot of the questions out, but do not hesitate. And again, we'll save some time at the end if any more comes up. So Daniel, that's all I got in the hopper for now.
No, that's great. And I think, a lot of those questions really got into the meat of why we built this storage as a service. So from that perspective, I think we're pretty good. If I'll go back to the architecture slide just in case people want to ask more questions, but I think some of the questions that already came in were great. And please reach out. Reach out to your EchoStor sales rep. Let's talk about a POC. If you have questions or frankly just ideas that you'd like to bounce off of us, maybe storage as a service isn't the right fit, but certainly we can have a conversation about any of your storage requirement needs, and we're always happy to help, whether it's data center, cloud, whichever is the requirement.
Okay. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Daniel. Just a reminder to everybody, we will be shooting the recording over to your email probably tomorrow morning. So please feel free to forward that along to your teams. Obviously, it's a nice, short, consumable half hour here. So hopefully, there's something interesting in there. And to echo Daniel's point, if you for whatever reason don't know your rep or whatever, you can always reply to that email, and the marketing team at EchoStor will connect you to the right person. So thanks so much, Daniel. I don't have any more questions. So I think with that, we'll end this here. And thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.